I don't hear her again. Oh, she's on
Meeting
mute.
is now streaming. I don't have this flash.
Oh, there you are. A little closer.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the hearing of the Assessment Equalization Board. Today's hearing deals with the 2020 street cleaning and street lighting improvement projects. As required by Chapter 727 of the Ohio Revised Code, I, Sarah Bibiano, as the Deputy Clerk of the Legislative Authority, have notified by certified mail the persons so objecting of the time and place of the hearing by the board. As Deputy Clerk of Council, I hereby call this meeting to order. The Assessment Equalization Board consists of a board appointed as per Ordinance Number 53-1995. Today's board members are Annie McFadden, Chief of Staff and Deputy Mayor for Administration, Shelley Goodrich, Deputy Director of Finance, Eufran Zilash, Deputy Director of Public Service and Neighborhood Assistance, David Honig, Assistant Law Director, and Mike Harehold, Citizen. The next order will be the explanation of the procedure by the Law Department, represented today by Sean Bowman, Assistant Law Director. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Thank you.
Good morning. Akron City Council passed Resolution 135-2020, declaring it necessary to provide street cleaning and street lighting services in the city of Akron. Having received objections to the estimated special assessments, City Council duly adopted this assessment equalization board. The jurisdiction of the board is limited to hearing objections as to whether the property has been benefited by the improvements and whether the assessment is a proper apportionment of those benefits. The board cannot consider whether the project is necessary or revise the nature and scope of the project or the materials used. Those determinations have been made by City Council and are binding on the board. I would now like to, we're going to swear the folks in that are participating today. And for the members of the Assessment Equalization Board, can we unmute them, I guess, for
She called yesterday.
Do you swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of an assessment equalization board? Please signify by saying I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay, now if we could unmute the city officials, Teresa, Kevin. I'm wondering if the other 812 was Walt Saturday.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be entirely the truth? Please signify by saying I do.
I do.
I do. I do.
Thank you. And then for the individual objectors, I will swear you each in individually so we have a record of it when we call your name. I will do it individually. For now, though, I'm going to let the different city officials involved give a little background on the project and what their involvement may be. And because I always pick on her first, I'll let Teresa start.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Herbert, City Assessor in the Treasury Division. This department is responsible for the collection of special assessments, the street lighting and street cleaning assessments, are ongoing assessments that are collected semi-annually with the property taxes through the Summit County Fiscal Office.
Hey, do you want to go on with Kevin?
Hello, my name is Kevin Miller. I'm the street cleaning superintendent, and I'm responsible for providing the services that are being assessed for, such as street cleaning, sweeping, removing snow and ice, debris pickup, dead animal removal.
Okay, and then Walt? Walt, are you able to hear me? He muted himself. All right, unmute him. All right, let's try again, Walt. Any ideas? He is muted again.
Hold on, we're getting it.
All right.
You have me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Walt Savick. I take care of the streetlights in the city of Akron.
Okay. Then I am going to begin then calling objectors. I have a pre-printed list, so it is going to be in that order. I'm not sure who's all here for what, but we'll give everybody the opportunity. May call some names that are not here, but we'll give them a minute. First, I have Advanced Poly Packaging. I believe that's Bridget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you would like, I'm going to swear you in right now. If you, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be entirely the truth? Please signify by saying I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. And you may go ahead.
Okay, this is the second assessment that we've been disputing. Our reasons are a little different. We met with the mayor of Akron and the Better Business Bureau and other members of the board before we purchased this building, and that was last year. We purchased the building last year in August. We were looking for incentives. That was the purpose of the meeting. When we were at the meeting, we got no incentives to stay in Akron. We were looking at moving down to North Carolina. In that meeting, we addressed the road, the issues with the road. No one mentioned any assessments if we bought this building. We have a $52,000 assessment, and now we have this assessment with no dollar amount on it. It just says an undetermined amount, pretty much. We feel that there should have been transparency with this. We weren't going to buy this building unless the costs that we analyzed were true, and they're not now. And at the time, no one mentioned to us when we specifically asked about the road and it getting fixed, and we're told it was going to be fixed, that we were going to be the ones to pay for it. In the last hearing, everyone said that I had a point, that they would contact me. I've had no contact. I've sent another letter. At this point in time, it's like we're just being completely overlooked in our argument that we feel is very valid. Hello?
Okay, I will say again, and I apologize, I was on that other meeting as well, that I was under the impression that you would be getting a phone call, or Mr. Baker would be getting a phone call from someone in our integrated planning department. I will double check on that. But with respect to that assessment, I mean, the board did vote not to, I mean, again, that's not relevant for this one, but you know, that decision was made by the board at that time. With respect to the street cleaning and street lighting, however, that is an, you know, I don't know, you know, I mean, that is something that affects every property in Akron. So I don't know that, you know, what that property would have been. Oh, I'm sorry. I've thought I was. Sorry. That property, you know, has probably been assessed for street cleaning and street lighting every year. So I don't know what. You know, I don't know how to.
You know, if we just had this one assessment and had we not specifically addressed the question of the streets and the cost of the streets, you know, I don't think that we would mind the street lighting and the street cleaning assessment. I'm sure it's minimal in comparison.
Yeah.
But after the last meeting, we really assumed that somebody was going to be reaching out. We never heard back. I sent another letter with my business card in case it was that they were reaching out to Mr. Baker. I mean, I'm in full contact with him, and he says he's never received anything. Okay. We were just trying to get some resolution on mainly the first one. And, you know, to me, the transparency and the fact that I wouldn't have bought this building. This has been one of the roughest years for businesses. And as you know, we just bought a second facility, which is already a strain on a company. had there just been a little bit of transparency beforehand, I wouldn't have purchased it, to be honest. I would have moved out of Akron. The property taxes are high. The city taxes are some of the highest. We went into that meeting looking for some help. We didn't get it. That's fine. But at the same time, someone should have said, however, if you buy this, you're also going to have another huge expense per year.
Teresa, do you have anything on the estimated amount of what their assessment is for? You need to unmute, I guess.
Yes, as you pointed out, Sean, the street lighting and street cleaning assessments are ongoing assessments that the majority of the citizens pay in the city of Akron for those services. This property is being assessed for street cleaning. Okay. And they have over 900 feet of frontage on the street, which is considerably large. And the sweeping assessment is $606 a half.
$606?
Yes, is what they're paying.
Right. And again, that assessment is reasonable.
Right.
I just haven't heard back on the last one. So we were hoping that if we called in for this one, we could get that resolved. this is, again, this is a different board and a different matter. And I will follow up and get some, I get the right person to give you. Would you rather have it be you than Mr. Baker? Yes, he tends to be out of town, especially during the summer. It'd be better.
All right. But the board the board did deny your objection in the last hearing. So I don't know what would be needed to be resolved with that hearing. Again, the city folks can reach out to you and talk to you about your concerns, but that was the resolution.
Might I interrupt? I was at that last meeting.
Yeah.
This is bad business.
Yeah.
She should have a call today.
We've been waiting since the last one when you didn't say we won't talk to you. You said you have a valid point. We'll reach out to you. I'll email Mr. Baker. At this point in time, it's like we were literally lied to by the entire city in that meeting. And now it's, well, we lied to you and we're not going to do anything about it. And it's very frustrating as a business owner, especially in this time. Like I said, it's a rough time for businesses. And we took the plunge into a second facility in Akron. And we're very transparent about the fact that we weren't sure if we wanted to stay here. We weren't sure if that was best for our business. We could only afford what we were doing with the move. $52,000 is a huge amount of money to say, well, yes, you bought the building. We didn't do anything for you in that meeting, but here you go. After telling us you were handling the street. This is to the point where I don't know what to do to get somebody to address it, or even say, yes, you said I had a valid point, but saying I have a valid point does nothing for my business's budget.
Ma'am, this is Mayor's Chief of Staff. We completely understand you're frustrated and we totally hear you right now. I was not in the last meeting either. I'm new to the board, but I'll assure that somebody follows up with you today.
I very much appreciate it. And
you're very welcome. I'm sorry you're
we
frustrated.
love the city of Akron. Obviously, we have two businesses there for a reason. We've been very loyal to the city and just want to resolve this.
Absolutely. We'll get somebody with you today, okay?
Okay, I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions? Okay, I am going to go on to the next objector is Joel Helms. If we could please unmute him. I'm sorry. He was here, yeah. Okay, well, we'll give him a chance maybe to come back in and I'll move on to, is Theodore Schmidt here? Okay, Teresa, it was my understanding that you discussed, you've talked to Mr. Schmidt and that he didn't, I don't think he rescinded his objection, but you
We,
came to
we
some
got
kind
his
of,
issues, yes, we got his issues straightened out. He was fine.
okay, but was there some, I mean, just for the board's knowledge, was there some
Yes,
adjustment
there was
made to?
yes, he was not getting a long side break on the longest side of the corner. So we were able to get that resolved. He just purchased this property last year. That adjustment has been made to his tax bill.
Okay. Then I'm going to call these separately, but I believe they're related entities. John R. Cole, Inc. and Fowler Street Properties, LLC. Okay. Next on my list is Kristen Halter. Okay. Crossroads Management, Cynthia Bender.
Hello.
Hello, good morning. I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be entirely the truth? Please signify by saying I do.
I do.
Thank you. And you may now state your objection.
We've never objected. We're on the corner of Main and Exchange. We love being here, but the construction is killing us. I'm sure you've seen both Exchange and Main. My upset last year was we're paying for lighting and sweeping for an annual amount of $7,534.72. And with the construction and the removal of the sidewalks over the last couple years, we're not getting street sweeping, and we have a total mess. We've had to replace air conditioner, and our chiller this summer, just when we turned it on, was full of debris. So if the downtown street hasn't been swept because it can't be. And the lighting, they did replace the one light. The actual old light was in our vaults and causing leakage into the basement. So that has been done, but the corner's still not done. And we're getting water in our basement until they get this finished. And like everyone's saying, not only has it been a tough year, but $7,500 for lighting and sweeping is quite a lot in an annual basis. And I just missed it last year. Our board voted and I was behind.
I guess, Jim, did you want to speak on this one, I believe?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you all for joining us today. It looks like there's a section of the property that is on Main Street that would have been affected directly by the construction, and it probably would have had an impact on our operations as far as the street lighting and street cleaning services for 2020. They anticipate Main Street being opened by August or in August.
We hope.
Yes, absolutely. You know, we all do. It's not been an easy year for us on the operations side either. But with that in mind, I think that there would be an opportunity to present some type of a reduction on the Main Street side where the construction is.
Well, and prior to that this year was Exchange Street. It was all torn up as well. I think it was the water project.
This current assessment is for the 2020 calendar year and our operations in this year.
Okay.
Okay. Did any of the board members have any questions regarding
Oh,
I'll take her 600.
if, if you can adjust that for her, I think that would be the fair and equitable thing to do. Especially and if it's referring only to this calendar year, then whatever, I don't know, do we need a motion that you work out a fair deal or,
Well,
something?
we will figure that out at the end of the hearing, I believe. Jim, did you have something in like specific in mind?
I would think that somewhere in the neighborhood of a 50% reduction for the frontage on South Main Street would be fair.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the board members? Anything else that you would like to say, Ms. Bender?
Well, we've backed the Downtown Special Improvement District, all these costs. We pay almost $40,000 a year in real estate taxes, site lighting, and the street sweeping. Quite frankly, our building's over half vacant now. We don't have sidewalks out front still, and I'm having a hard time meeting it. So I guess my next step will be to go to the county. So, but I'm trying to keep the building open.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will, if Mr. Helms is back, are you ready to unmute and speak?
Okay, we got it.
Mr. Helms?
Yes, you hear me?
Okay, yes, I'm going to swear you in right now. Do you
Okay.
swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be entirely the truth? Please signify by saying I do.
I do.
All right, if you would like to go ahead and state your objection for the
I
street
object.
cleaning and street lighting.
Okay, street cleaning is, we presently have cameras on the front of our building, and I actually paid an employee for 2 days to go through all the video to find out when we were street cleaned, and we basically came up with a couple shots right down the center of the street. It didn't look like they were cleaning. They were just transporting their vehicle from one location to another. So I guess the question is, yeah, we might get one snow cleaning, but because of the slope that we have here, there's no reason to have any street cleaning because the rain washes everything. We just recently had a dump truck go up our road, dropped virtually a yard of mud in a 300-foot area where the slope is the highest from a sewer project only 2 blocks away. And within 4 hours, there wasn't a trace of that mud because it had been all washed away. So the street cleaning is a very questionable issue. And we just don't have any trees on it. We're not getting any leaves cleaned. We're not sure why we need that street cleaning. And I think if there's any objection, employees go out there and clean up the street whenever there's a problem, and totally object to the street cleaning in its entirety. Now, if we actually are served, okay, bill us per service, but billing us ahead of time is not functional for us. Second of all, the street lighting. Half of your street lighting in the city is over half, I'm sorry, but just in the number 10 classification of lighting, is 100-watt high pressure sodium. That's 129 watts. We can get the same quality of lighting with LEDs at 13 watts. So why are we paying virtually 10 times more in energy? So I totally object to the lighting, what we're being charged for, because it's so obsolete, it's ridiculous. The other issue I have is that in my section of the street between Arlington Street and the Heritage Trail, there's four light fixtures. 2 of them have not been operating more than, if I think they were operating for 6 months when they were first installed, and they have not been operating since, but nobody complains because they're not needed. We've got so much spill lighting from our parking lots and stuff that they don't come on. So you're saying board is not in charge of the engineering and design of this, but if we have fixtures that are there and don't come on because they're not needed, why are we getting charged for them? And obviously, your contract with Ohio Edison is they're there, you get charged no matter what, whether they will operate or not. The other two that are operational, probably within the month, I'll make sure they're not operational because our lights will overpower them also. So we're going to have a bunch of lights on our street that don't work because they don't serve the function. And when I came to this board about 20 years ago, you basically says, well, we can't count on you as a property owner because you might not be around next year. Well, I'm still here. And I guess I object to paying for services that I'm not receiving. And obviously that's why I've started the petition drive for our miniature neighborhood here. And it might be interesting how your law department handles this petition drive with the Constitution and everything. I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. If this, I guess maybe either Jim or Kevin, if you can talk about the service for that street or that area, how, a little bit more about how the properties are built. And again, and maybe Walt with respect to the street lighting.
Sure,
and
I'll
answer
start off.
any other questions that,
Yeah, I'll start off with
points.
the street sweeping questions. Our street sweeping operations are basically required as part of our municipal stormwater permit with the Ohio EPA. We've got to get in there and sweep this up. We just can't allow this debris to be washed down into the storm sewers and the rivers. It just does not work. That's one of the reasons we do this street sweeping citywide on all public streets. Additionally, just to throw caution to the wind and expect 1 snow per year for our safety forces, I'm not comfortable with that idea. With that, I can turn it over to Kevin Miller, who can speak more on the number of times the street has been serviced so far this year.
Yeah, unmute Kevin.
Hello, this is Kevin Miller. I will speak about the services that we have provided on Ackley and Johnston Street so far this year. I'll start with Johnston. That is on Route RP7. That has been swept and serviced 21 times by a sweeper so far this year. We estimate that by the end of the year, we'll have somewhere around 30 to 35 sweepings in on Johnston Street. On Ackley, that is on residential route Thursday 2A. That has been swept 6 times so far. And we estimate that that'll be swept an additional 4 times between now and leaf season. And then of course, both streets will receive leaf removal service.
I did want to address one thing that I think Mr. Helms said that I just want to make sure he talked about charging in advance. And Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong, but these assessments are for services done in 2020, but they won't be paid until 2021?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So these will, to the extent that you are charged this year for street cleaning and street lighting, that would have been for the services done in 2019. So it's not the charge that was on your real estate bill for this year was for last year's services. Did we, any questions from the board members on Mr. Helms's objection? All right, I'm seeing Shaking heads. Okay. Mr. Helms, anything else that you would like to add?
Yes, I mean, obviously we'll go back through and I'll spend another 2 days of labor going through our tapes, finding out where these this RP7 took place and the 2A. 2A we did not actually have observations, but is it my understanding in reading the legislation, the class that we are in says that there should be approximately 40 or so cleanings for this residential 2A route, so many times per season. And then a few less times for one of the seasons. So it looks like we're getting done 10, but charged for 40 or so. So I guess there's a question there on that residential route. And I guess there's a discrepancy is why are we paying so much more? Who's in charge of the engineering in that? Obviously the council is in charge of billing us and you guys are trying to equalize that. But who's actually in charge of the engineering that we're being charged basically 10 times more for lighting than we're receiving? I believe there's a basic citizen complaint there is, you know, for $500,000, you could have the whole city lit per year. Why are we paying $4.5 million? There seems to be a slight discrepancy, and I don't think the citizens are in general going to accept that. I thank you.
Okay, do we have someone that can address lighting? I guess Walt, to the extent you can, or I don't know if Travis has.
Okay, Mr. Helms, Walt Savick, we spoke on the phone, I think one time, so good morning. One thing, I think you know that these lights in your area are through an agreement, provided through an agreement with Ohio Edison. And those rates are set by the Public Utilities Commission. So we don't have much control over the rate that's charged. We realize, and we've been working to try to get some more efficient lights, reducing the costs. But we find sometimes that a switch over to an LED light will even increase our costs. It's not only the continuing cost of running the light, which is cheaper with an LED, but the initial cost of buying the light and putting it up there is a cost also that's added into the formula. So you're assessed there on your streets at the residential rate, which is one of the lowest ones we have other than alley lighting. So I don't know that there's much we can control.
Thank you, Walt. All right, any other questions from the board? All right, thank you. Next name on my list is Alana Banfield Ayers. Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Hi, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be entirely the truth? Please signify by saying I do.
I do.
Okay, if you would like to state your objection.
Yes. Thank you. My name's Elena. I live at 1911 Cherrywood Lane, which is a dead-end street in the cul-de-sac. I've lived there for 19 years along with my 2 children. I'm objecting today to the price of the street cleaning and lighting on the road that runs behind my house, which is George Washington Boulevard. In 2001, when I moved into my house, I was paying $65.70 on George Washington Boulevard for these assessments and $56.61 for Cherrywood. At the current rate this year, I'm paying well over $1,000. I understand that we're assessed, according to the letter, on front foot and on the property bounding and abutting, except for those lots and lands described on Exhibit A to the resolution. So I called the office to find out exactly what that means, that Exhibit A. I called a 375-2428 number. I think I spoke to Karen. I called a few times. I just wanted an explanation on how I'm being charged. It said in the letter that I could get the specific plans, specifications, profiles all on file. I asked if it could be mailed to me, emailed to me. Can I look this over so I have a better understanding of these charges? But apparently I guess that's not possible. My personal opinion is I understand a corner lot in paying for street lighting and cleaning on a corner lot that has, you know, for both sides of your homes. Many people think it's a privilege to live on a corner lot. It's a nice feature. You have less neighbors, but this isn't a corner lot situation. This is a road that runs behind my house. There are 4 homes on Cherrywood Lane that butt up to the back of George Washington Boulevard. We don't have access to this street. We don't want access to this street. My previous neighbor had requested access, is my understanding, but it was denied. He's since moved across the street, partially because of the taxes. This road, if anything, diminishes our property value. Mr. Savick, you might remember I contacted you in 2017 to ask you if it was possible to put light shields on the street lighting because they shine into our bedrooms at nighttime. The light pollution coming into the house, I have to have all the curtains shut because my whole house is lit up every night. In my personal opinion, the cost of paying for this street behind our home, which has no value to our property at all, is outrageous. So my questions are, I mean, how much does it cost to clean the street yearly? There's no leaf service for our properties, so it wouldn't include that. And how much is the lighting cost? Are the rates for this street different for businesses than for residential? I try to get access to this information, like I said, but I guess I can't. So I just figured I'd do a rough estimate myself. This is the 1.2 mile long street. It runs from Route 224 to Triplet Boulevard, which is about 19,000 feet. At the rate that I'm paying, that would bring in nearly $80,000 for cleaning and over $37,000 for lighting, well over $117,000 a year. Another point I want to mention is there's an additional 3 to 4 houses down the road. Now they have a piece of city property triangular, so they don't butt up to George Washington Boulevard. However, they've cut driveways through your property to access George Washington Boulevard, yet they're not being assessed. They're not paying any additional charges on this road. It seems unfair. And another thing to consider is parcel number 685019. This is a house at the end of the street, right before the baseball fields. If you're imagining the area, it's across from the airport. This is half a mile from my home. It's 0.1 miles from the intersection. It's the same road, the same traffic, the same lighting, the same street cleaning, yet, and they have a driveway on this home. This is their main street. And their rate is $147.06 a year. I'm paying on George Washington Boulevard alone well over $800, and my neighbors are paying well over in the thousands. So again, I'm asking, are there different rates for different residents? It seems inconsistent. Another thing I want you to consider or explain to me is on Cherrywood Lane. I live in the cul-de-sac, so I pay substantially more than my neighbors up and down the street. I looked at everybody's what they pay. My lot is longer, so I understand that I pay more. I also have a water easement that runs through my property. It's on the outside of my fence. I don't have benefit to it, but I understand I need to pay for it. I pay $272 for street cleaning and lighting on Cherrywood. But at the very top of the street, the corner lot, which has access to Hillbush and Cherrywood Lane, their portion of Cherrywood Lane is substantially longer than mine. And they're paying $56.66 a half on the 2 roads. That seems extremely inconsistent. They have a longer piece on Cherrywood than I do, and I'm paying 4 times the cost. So these are the concerns that myself and my neighbor who's next to me have. I would really appreciate if we could consider removing this assessment from our 4 homes, revising this assessment. I've spoken to Mr. Kittrick, our Ward 6 councilman. I thought he was going to be on here today. He's been a big support. I know he's reached out to a lot of you and other people in the department. And then I guess listening to Bridget earlier, she had mentioned that she has 900 feet and she's paying $606 a half. And I know that my neighbor has 145 feet and she's paying $597 a half. So that seems very inconsistent too. So I wondered if we could get some answers to those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa, I guess I'm rely on you to discuss the actual assessments and the rates and all of that. But we gotta get you off mute. Okay.
Yes. First of all, I apologize if you were not given complete information when you contacted this office. You should have been able to have received the rate information and the limits that are referenced in the notice that you have there for the street lighting and street cleaning services that are offered in the city.
She did,
but
I'm sorry,
your,
she did give me my rate. She did explain my rate. So I want to make that clear. I was given how much I'm paying per foot, but I was questioning about the class, explaining the classes and the different rates. And is there a different for business or residential, those kinds of, but I did get some information I want to clarify.
Okay. Yeah. As far as definition of the classes and that type of thing, the people in Public Works can explain that a little bit better to you, because the different streets in the city receive different class of services, and the class of service that each street receives determines the rate that they're assessed per foot. So, I mean, I know you were making a point earlier about different properties, like the previous person that spoke over on Ascot Parkway and what they were paying and whatnot. Again, it's not really comparing apples to apples, because each street is different depending on, like I said, the type of street it is. You know, is it a collector street? Is it a typical residential street? The type of lighting lamps that it has, the number of times a year it's swept. And I don't think the street over there that she was referencing is, I don't really know offhand what rate that particular street is being assessed at. I just want to concentrate on George Washington Boulevard and Cherrywood Lane. But my point is, there are different aspects that come into play to determine how the streets are assessed and the rate that they are assessed at. You did mention another property farther up from you. It sounded like they might be on a corner. You said they're not on a corner.
Oh, on Cherrywood, yes.
Yes.
On George Washington, no.
Right. And so there is, we do give a long side break on properties that are on a corner. Okay. And that is because, so that they're going to be hit twice for an assessment. We do give a reduction on the longest side of that property. And so I'm assuming, without knowing the property that you're talking about in particular, that is why you can't compare their assessment to what you're paying, because if Cherrywood Lane is the longest side of their property, they're going to get a 50% reduction up to the first 200 feet on the amount of frontage they're assessed at. Okay. And then they're assessed at 100% of the frontage on the short side. And that's according to the applicable rate for that particular street per foot.
Are we getting a discount on the long side of our property?
They're unfortunately, the Uniform Assessing Ordinance, which is where these assessment rates come from, it does not allow provision for a break on front and back frontage of properties. It is only for properties that are on a corner. So, because believe me, if that was the case, you would be getting that. And I think in the past, there was some question as far as how the assessments had went up. It was discovered that the assessments were not being applied correctly on George Washington Boulevard, and those adjustments were made. And that's what caused an increase in some of your assessments, because they were not being assessed correctly. They were being underassessed on George Washington Boulevard. So that is basically the gist of that, of how the assessments run. Now, George Washington Boulevard, the folks in Public Works can elaborate a little bit more on this. The rate per foot is over $4 per
Is
foot
the
on George Washington.
rate different for residential than it is for business?
For lighting and cleaning, no. Everybody pays the same rate for lighting and cleaning, whether you're a business or residential.
At over $4 a foot.
Can you appreciate how this is not a street that we have access to? This is, if anything, what I noticed something was said that this board and the cost, you're determining if the property is benefited by these services. I don't see how our property is benefited by these services when we don't even have access to the street. I don't even drive on that street, which I know is irrelevant. And the lighting on the street does not benefit my property. It's actually a form of light pollution on our property.
Yes, I understand. And that's why the board is here today meeting to hear your case and make a determination if you have a valid complaint.
And the question about the house that is a half a mile from me, like I stated, it's the same road, the same cars. You can't really turn off unless you make a U-turn between my house and their house, the same lighting, the same cleaning. And yet their rate is, I mean, they're paying nothing.
What is that address for that property that you're referring to? Or do you have a parcel number by chance?
I have both. It's parcel number 685019.
685019?
Yes. Now the address is Hillbish. However, it is the last 0.1 of that street. It seems as though the address, it changes from one name of the road to another name, the last 0.1 miles on the street. And then after the light, it continues to be Hillbish. So is that home rated at a different rate because the street name changed? Even though it's the exact same piece of road?
Well, Kevin, do you happen to know offhand the difference of class from Hillbish to Cherrywood Lane that she's referencing?
I think she thinks you're talking.
Well,
No, excuse me. I'm talking about only George Washington Boulevard.
Oh, George Washington Boulevard.
Yeah,
okay.
This house is strict on George Washington.
Yeah, I don't.
Same road.
By the ball fields.
Right next to the ball fields.
Hi, this is Kevin.
Yes.
I'm not aware of what they're paying. I would have to look that up. But as far as George Washington itself, it's classified as a class 30, and that is at the sweeping rate. I'm not sure about the lighting, but the sweeping is just a little over $4 a linear foot for the frontage that gets charged. That's basically is service in the street twice a week when it comes to sweeping. And I'm not sure if the one driveway you were talking about that's cut through there, if they're paying for George Washington without looking it up. Cherrywood assessment for per foot is a residential class 60, and that is $1.27.5 per linear foot. Hillbish, that you were talking about, that's down on the corner of Hillbish and Cherrywood, that rate is cheaper because it's a unimproved street, and it's a class 65 at $1.01 per foot.
But it's the same road. There's no break in the road between our homes and this home. It's the same road. If you drive behind my house, you have to drive in front of this house unless you make a U-turn.
He's talking about the corner too. He's talking about Cherrywood and Hillbish.
I was talking about the corner of Cherrywood and Hillbish, not George Washington on that last statement.
Okay, I apologize.
So theirs is less.
I will give you the information as far as what we've done as far as sweeping services. On Cherrywood, so far this year, we have swept it 6 times. And on George Washington, we've swept it so far 29 times.
Well, I don't really have an objection to Cherrywood other than, I felt like that. I guess I'm even more upset now understanding that some streets have a longer side discount and we don't. Especially on, like I've said, a piece of property that I feel like does not benefit our property in any way.
Especially because it's at 4.109 a foot.
Right, and I understand your frustration, and I apologize, and that's why we're meeting today, so the Equalization Board can make a determination whether you have a valid point, and they're the ones that can make that decision whether you should pay less or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other any questions, anything that the board members would like to ask of city officials, of the objector?
Do we have, oh, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, I suggest we give Mrs. Banfield Ayers a 50% reduction on the George Washington Boulevard side. It just seems only fair.
I was going to ask something similar. If we give the discount to the corner lots, do we have any other instances where, property that might abut another street that would essentially be, similar to a corner lot, but they're not a corner lot? Do we have instances like that where we give them the same discount, or does that differ for some reason?
That discount does not pertain to street lighting and street cleaning. If they have frontage on a front and back, if a street abuts the front and back of their property, they do not get any reduction for lighting and cleaning in that situation. It only pertains to a corner lot where that reduction comes into play.
Right, but I guess my question is, what's the difference if they're abutting 2 streets?
Well, the code is written as such that it does not cover properties that have streets that abut front and back. It only addresses L-shaped lots or corner lots where 2 streets intersect.
So Sean, it's just what's codified?
Yep. Then again, that's why we have hearings to determine, unique cases and benefits and whether or not property is benefited the same way as, generally 99.9% of the properties may be in Akron. So I think at this,
I just think it's only fair. And Miss Banfield Ayers, I would strongly suggest that you get Mr. McKittrick on that and get that policy changed so it's front and back.
He was supposed to be on this call today. Maybe something happened, but
I think now might make sense to add for me to swear, and I'm assuming that's Miss Brindley to your left.
Yes, it is.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Can I swear you in? Do you swear affirm the testimony you give today will entirely be the truth? Please signify by saying I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to add more to what Miss Banfield Ayers?
Well, yeah, we've been together discussing this, so I've got the same issues. Although, I have 145 feet that I'm paying 4.109 a foot for on George Washington. My property taxes are $6,000 a year. When I tell people that I live in the city of Akron and pay $6,000 a year, and it's because I pay $597.25 for George Washington alone. A half. So I'm paying $1,340 a year for George Washington. And it's, I don't get it. And I realized that jump it was in 2018 that it jumped. I was paying $300 when I first moved here, because I've lived here 22 years. I was paying $118 for both streets assessment. Then it went to $239 for both streets. Then it went to 309, you know, and now it's up to 670.75 a half for street assessments. And I don't, you know, I know that the street gets cleaned. I know.
We hear the street cleaner.
Yeah, they don't clean the leaves there. I clean the leaves.
And the trash.
Yeah, and the trash daily, but I'm not denying they plow it, they, you know, and the lighting, it's been over 2 years ago that, because my backyard is not fenced in, I'm the one that's got the open backyard. And when them street lights are out, my backyard is pitch black. And over 2 years ago, there was quite a few of the lights out on George Washington. I was told to call, I had to contact Ohio Edison. Contacted Ohio Edison for probably a couple weeks straight because I couldn't give them an address of the street light. They couldn't figure out, and I was like, there is no address. It's behind 1915 Cherrywood Lane. They came out, they fixed some of them, but the one light, because I have 2 street lights that are over my property, the one hasn't worked for over 2 years. I gave up. Because I didn't have an address. I didn't know if the poles had numbers. I gave up. But as long as I have one lighting my backyard.
Where I'm the opposite. I don't want the
She
light.
doesn't like the lights.
It shines in my bedroom.
So, I mean, just the same thing. The cost is just.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Harehold, I want to get through Mr. Pickett and the Barley House, and then we can discuss the individual cases and recommendations as far as any reductions.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. All right. Mr. Pickett.
Yes.
All right, you are up.
Okay, I'd like to.
Can you, yes,
Go ahead.
Can you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be entirely the truth? Please signify by saying I do.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, you may state your objection.
So I'd like to object to the entire assessment because, as you know, there's construction in front of the bar. I have not had a street light up in front of that bar in over a year and a half. It's been over a year. I have not had a light up. The State Street Bridge is out. There's no lights up there. And it's impossible to clean that street. That street hasn't been cleaned in probably 8 months because of the construction. There's nobody, it's bulldozers everywhere and there's dirt and piles of rocks and they have not cleaned that street. And I want to object to the entire assessment. I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't care if it's just for the year, but this is not the year that I should have to pay anything. Because I mean, I have no lights there and they have not cleaned that street. It's impossible to do it because the bridge is out as well, the State Street Bridge.
Okay, thank you. I guess Jim, Kevin, Walt, do you have anything to say to the objection? I know we did discuss, I know Jim had made a recommendation on another Main Street property earlier, or a suggestion, maybe not a recommendation, I'm not sure. But if you guys could, someone address Mr. Pickett's.
Yeah, all right, you got me, good. I would think that this is a very similar situation as to the previous one, where our services have been impacted. However, we still provide some of the services. I'll let Kevin speak to that and Walt speak to what's available out there now. Similarly, I would suggest a 50% reduction in their street cleaning, street lighting rates for both State Street and on Main Street frontages. With that, I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Hi, this is Kevin. Hi, this is Kevin. As Jim stated, for sure the construction has impacted our ability to perform some of the services. I do know that we still provide snow and ice removal on the sidewalks or walkways within the fence area that is allotted to us, that where the public would walk. when they don't have it completely blocked off by the construction, but it for sure has impacted our ability to perform the full street cleaning services that are normally performed on Main Street in that area and State Street.
Problem with the assessment any other year other than this year, obviously.
I apologize. I did not hear that.
I said, I don't have a problem with the assessment normally, except this year is just, because there's no, you can't clean the street. It's impossible. And there is no lighting there at all.
Correct.
So, okay, so did we say that Kevin, or I don't know if Walt chip in that he has not had lighting up until this point this year? Will that come back on later on in the year, or?
He said after the project is over.
After the project's over, okay. Okay, any board members, any questions about this property?
No.
Okay. Anything you'd like to finish up with, Mr. Pickett? Okay. And I did receive a note that Mr. Helms may be having some computer issues. So I didn't know if there's something you didn't get the opportunity to say. I wanted to give you the opportunity now. But I see it's still on mute.
I only didn't hear what Walter Saywick said in reply to my comments. I had nothing else to say, but I'll check with him later.
Okay, and this is being streamed on YouTube and it will still be on there if you want to look and watch at a later date as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I am going to close the public testimony. And we have a lot of people on, and our board members are not obviously all in the same place. So, it may not be as easy to confer. But what I guess I would recommend is that if there are any properties that you would like to discuss making a change to the assessments for, let's talk individually about each property, and then if there are properties that you don't have that recommendation for, a motion could be made for those properties as a whole, as opposed to individual reductions. So I don't know who wants to become like the self-appointed leader of the board, but if someone wants to throw out a property or begin discussing a specific property.
Well, as I said earlier, I would be in favor of 50% reduction on the George Washington Boulevard property of Ms. Banfield Ayers.
And that would be for the lighting. That's for both the lighting and the cleaning then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anyone want to further discussion? Board members, does anyone?
I would just want to say that I think we should just treat it like a corner lot. So whatever the rules would be for a corner lot, we should apply to both Miss Banfield Ayers and Miss Brindley's property. So whatever we would do, just treat it like it's a corner lot for the purposes. I don't know which street would be the longer side, or I don't want to treat it separately from other people, but I would treat them as corner lots. That would be my suggestion for both of their properties.
Yeah, excellent idea. Whatever the policy works, but make it work for front and back. However, Teresa and her folks do that assessment, I guess.
Does anyone else wish to comment? So
I concur with David Honing's suggestion.
Okay, so I guess I hear a motion for. Would you like to say something else, Miss Harris?
Yes, please. Thank you. Would this only be for this year, or would this
I
be
was-
going forward?
I
Or
was
do-
going to, yeah, I was going to do that, mention that after they voted, but the code is written as the code is written. So unless there is some change that we make, it would be for this year.
So yearly.
Yeah,
unless I
but
talk to my
we can look at, and we can look at trying to make a change, going forward as far as so you wouldn't have to do that. You can, but as of now, this board only has the ability to make a change for this year.
Thank you.
Okay. So
Get Mr. McKittrick on it.
So I guess I have a motion, all in favor, and this is going to be for Miss Banfield Ayers and Miss Brindley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. And we will work on getting those numbers fixed and to you. I think Teresa will send something out shortly with the
Yes.
revised numbers. Okay.
Right.
Any other properties that the board would like to discuss?
I would
Go ahead.
follow what Mr. Hall recommended for the Main Street properties, the 50% reduction for any Main Street property that's objected. I know there was at least 2, if not more. So that would be my recommendation for those.
I will say there were other Main Street properties that were on there, but I don't, and Mr. Hall can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think those were near the limits of the project.
Okay, yeah, so sorry to clarify, the ones that are
Okay.
affected by the construction.
Okay, because I think Fowler Street and Mr. Cole's properties were not in the area where there was construction. Jim, can you let us know that for sure for the record?
Yes, that is correct. Those properties are actually located on Fowler Street and over on Bowery and Water Streets for frontage.
Okay, so I know for Crossroads Management, there was Main Street, and were they on Exchange as well? Is that correct?
Yes,
that is
we're
correct.
on the
Okay, so-
corner of Main and Exchange.
All right, but the recommendation for that one was for a 50% reduction for Main?
Yes, that was my recommendation.
Okay.
And now if Exchange also had construction or was down, but I don't think that was the testimony,
And
my recollection.
Is Mr. Pickett part of this same?
Well, no, because I believe Jim said that State Street had some things as well. So I wanted to try, it's a different side street. So I wanted to try to keep this one on Crossroads for the time being. So I am hearing, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, a motion for a reduction of the assessment on Main Street by 50% for street cleaning and street lighting.
Second that.
Okay, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, is anyone opposed? Okay, and then I believe, and did you want to then discuss, David, did you want to make a motion for the Barley House as well?
Yeah, I would make the same for 50% for Main Street, and because State Street was also affected, the 50% for State Street as well.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any other properties that you guys would like to discuss individually? Okay, so then I guess it would be time to entertain a motion for, the properties that you do not wish to uphold the objection on. If it's the remainder of them, if someone could make a motion to that.
I'll so move.
Okay, so you're moving to deny the remainder of the objection?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion, or do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Okay, thank you all for your time and sticking around. This was went pretty long, so I appreciate everybody's time and being involved with this project. Thank you.
Good work. Fascinating stuff.